Hello everyone, my name is Rosina I'm Agyapong, final year master's student from the Faculty of Environment at the University of Waterloo. And my research is on climate change, vulnerability and viability of small-scale fishery communities. Actually, this research is a part of an ongoing project from the V2V Global Partnership Group and is supported by the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council of Canada. To begin, this is the outline. I have my introduction right up to the conclusion. I would like to start with some definition of key terms. And I want to talk a little bit about our natural habitat. Now, over the years, with different conditions setting in as technology progresses, there has been an effect on our environment, which is the ecosystem. And one of the major issues surrounding our environment that has made the world talks about more is what we call climate change, which is a global threat to human lives and environmental sustainability. According to the FAO, in 2020 gave a definition that climate change is the rising of ocean temperatures and ocean acidification leading to radically altering aquatic ecosystems. Now, the emphasis I want to put more on is the alteration of the aquatic ecosystems. And when I say the ecosystem, I mean the interrelationship between the living organisms and their environment. And the picture that you see is a beautiful ecosystem of the coral reefs. It serves as a place of habitat for over hundreds and thousands of fish species and living organisms living in these water bodies. And one of the importance of the ecosystem is to serve as a nutrient recycling in the ocean through the decomposition of some organic materials by ensuring the continuity of its ecosystem. The sad part of this story is the fact that activities of man, such as pollution, oil and gas spillage, overfishing, overexploitation, and climate change, which is one major factor, has resulted in about 75% of the damage of our beautiful coral reefs, as you see in the picture below. And when this happens, not only does it have effect on the animals, they tend to move or migrate to different places, it also have another effect on the people that depends on it for survival. And there are some group of people who uses simple machineries to fish, and those people are known as small-scale fisheries. They involve the use of small boat and small fishing gears to fish. Now, when there is an abundance of fish, one does not need to use sophisticated equipment to catch fish. But looking at the damage that climate change has caused, these fishes now tends to use other means for survival, and this poses a significant threat in their lives, hence making them vulnerable, which means that vulnerability comes as a result of the dangers and stresses caused by environmental changes such as climate change on the small-scale fishery communities, affecting the individuals to adjust to their impact. When this happens with a climate change issue, with this picture, you will see that there is a climate change has been affected on the fisheries. When there is a rise in temperature, the water begins to become warm. When it happens like that, it leaves the fishes, in order not for them to be able to gasp for air, they are not able to breathe in effectively, thereby losing much oxygen. As time goes on, they eventually die. But those who are able to survive are not able to spawn or reproduce more to increase the food production, hence leading to loss of food production. And still on the vulnerability aspect, when vulnerability becomes severe, it makes the people becomes insecure and is highly prone to all forms of danger. And all these individuals have what they've gone through, because of the changes that they've gone through, and they've become extremely vulnerable. There is a need for them to bounce back to their normal self. Hence, there is resilience, which is the capacity for a community to be able to cope and adapt to vulnerability. This can also be achieved with the help of other bodies or agencies. which we refer to as governance, and it is the regulations and decisions that surround the small-scale fisheries. So the aim of the research is to explore the community's perspective on building local resilience to climate change vulnerability by critically examining the achievement of viability in these fishing areas. And these are the three objectives that I used. And with the materials and methods, I used it's a qualitative research method using 4 key areas, that is looking at the pragmatic, well, how the pragmatics um, see the environmental change, the impact it has, and the way forward. I also, because we couldn't go to the field, I adopted the secondary data collection using a systematic literature review, and I had a case study area, and I employed the iAdapt framework tool, which provided a useful understanding to the climate vulnerabilities experienced by these fishing communities, the challenges to building resilience, and the nature of governance responses needed to address this phenomenon. So according to the same FAO in 2015, stated that 12% of the world's population depends on fishery for survival. And out of this 12%, which is 120 million people, 90% of them are into small-scale fisheries, where half of the 90 are women. And over 90% of these small-scale fisheries live in the developing countries, with 90 to 95% being solely for human consumption. And we all know the importance of small-scale fisheries. They serve as provision of job opportunities through making and repairing of boat and net, owning boat and gear, as you can see in the pictures, providing fishing labors as crews. It also gives our women some sort of job, like trading in fish, packaging and transporting, and also selling fish to generate income for themselves. It also contributes to the country's GDP through foreign exchange earnings and revenues, and it supports the local livelihoods in any ways. However, the impact of climate change affects the livelihoods of small-scale fishery communities and the world at large. In case of the impact of climate change, as stated on within the small-scale fishery communities, we have many of them. Given all these components, as you see, from the ocean current rise up to the temperature, these components have a detrimental effect on the ecosystem's production level. It tends to change its productivity. In so doing, their species reduces in size, the production and yield begins to reduce, and there is a bleach in the coral reefs, as I stated earlier on. Also, not only does it have a detrimental effect on the communities and their livelihoods through loss of livelihoods, infrastructures, their life becomes at risk. There is also a wider society and economic, looking at both the country and the global context, and it makes adaptation and mitigation costs becomes high, as well as it impacting negatively on our markets. So to study the research, I went with Lake Volta. This is the geographical area of Lake Volta, and it's the largest artificial lake in the world by surface area. It lies in the southeastern part of Ghana and covers 8,502 square kilometers by surface area. And it contributes to 1.2% of the country's GDP. And the common fish species found are the catfish, tilapia, and the Nile perch. So a study conducted by Becky Senayak in 2019 shows that vulnerability comes as a result of a loss of fishing communities' resilience and the adaptive capacity of a community to be able to cope and adjust to stress caused by either political or environmental change. Now, the absence of capitals, well-being, and resilience through impact of climate change poses a significant threat to the fishery community, such that their livelihoods becomes at risk, they lose their sort of livelihoods, and there is no money to fend for themselves. Food becomes scarce in the community. Their capitals are being impacted. There are lots of infrastructure. Just look at the image as you see, you could see that the image talks a lot about how a community that has become vulnerable goes through every now and then. Like, they've lost everything, all their belongings are being lost, their houses, their bridges, hospitals, schools, name them, their social and even well-being, everything has been impacted, all in the name of climate change. So in order for a community or a local fisher communities to be able to adapt to climate change impact, there is a need for them to diversify their livelihoods. Like, they can use channel their resources into doing something else to generate income for themselves through maybe carpentry, or maybe going into trading or sewing, or even into farming, livestock rearing, among others. Also, taking some days aside, using their traditional technological knowledge to observe fishing holidays. In those days, they can decide not to go for fishing, but they can use that day to work on their boat, as you can see in the images below. And also, in so doing, it makes the water bodies rest, and the fishes begin to rejuvenate back to its normal self. And when there is a severe impact on climate change on the vulnerable communities, they tend to move from their place of abode to different places in search for greener pastures. And there is the need for them to practice sustainable fishing. So in concluding, to adapt to an unending occurrence of climate change impact, there is the need for the government to have change in policy towards enhancing local knowledge and increasing the participation of community members in policy formulation and implementation. Also, a multidisciplinary approach involving both the public and the private sectors, the community-based organizations, the small-scale fishery communities, traditional authorities, among others, should be enhanced to be able to recognize the complex problems in managing climate change responses in these vulnerable communities. Then finally, capacity development by empowering our stakeholders through training, engaging the microfinance institutions with them, having a talk with them about how to get loan or get credit to be able to further their cause, and also having some form of an exchange collaborative programs with our research centers and our universities in so much that the people will be able to have a knowledge of what climate change impacted, what the awareness and the creation, how climate change can be prevented, and all that should be strengthened and enhanced to help these vulnerable communities to become viable. Thank you so much.